wanted to jump in and introduce myself really quickly. My name is Jing Cox-Orrell. I'm the Philanthropy Program Manager at American Student Assistance. You've probably seen some of our logos around here, maybe just once or twice. But we are a national nonprofit based in Boston, Massachusetts, really changing the way that kids learn about careers and really prepare for their futures. And we fulfill this mission in a variety of ways. We have some free student-led digital experiences, which have reached over 15 million young people to date. We've got some impact investing work we do, advocacy, thought leadership, and our philanthropic support to a variety of kind of mission-aligned organizations. So we're really excited to be here with some amazing speakers to really talk about how to better include workplace identity and building durable skill development in career-connected learning programs. So before we kind of dive in, I'd really love to do just a raise of hands really quickly to see who's in the audience. We can make sure that we're tailoring our responses to folks so that it's most relevant to you. So if you are kind of a business that is seeking more involvement with young people, whether that be through apprenticeships, internships, could you just raise your hand really quickly? Okay, a couple. Any kind of educators in the room? Yes? Woo, we love that. Okay, great. Tough job. Any policymakers? Lobbyists, advocacy people, okay. Funders at all, besides ASA? Okay, great, cool. And then any representation from kind of for-profit ed tech companies that are looking to engage with young people? Okay, great, so just so we have a sense of who's in the room. And really quickly, to kick us off, just kind of speed round, I want you to tell me what your very first job was. So not post-college, but like first job in high school. Maybe it was legal, maybe it was under the table, who knows. But just to kick us off, set the stage for younger learners, what was your first job?
Summer camp counselor in training, where I earned $200 over 4 weeks.
Were you liked as a camp counselor?
Very much so.
There we go. All right, Corey.
I was a baseball umpire, and my very first game as an umpire, my partner and I had to decide who would be behind home plate. And I was like, I want to do it. It's more interesting. There's more that happens there. And my very first game, I had a bang-bang call at home, called the runner out. Coach comes screaming onto the field. I had to throw him out of the game.
Ooh, very nice. Wow. All right, all right.
Durable skill.
There we go.
Yeah, mine wasn't as exciting. I was bagging groceries at a local supermarket, but it was my first introduction to networking because my older sister hooked me up with the job.
There we go.
Nice.
Social capital, we love it.
And mine was selling ice cream from my front walk because we were not allowed to go to the ice cream truck. We didn't have that much money, and my father said, I'll show you how to make money. So we wholesaled it and sold it for the next 5 summers.
Amazing. Very nice. Very nice. I was also a grocery store bagger. You're supposed to bag so that outside of the bag, the groceries still maintain a square shape, supposedly. That's the right way to do it. Who knows? Anyways, so to start off, I'd really love to have you introduce yourselves, share a little bit about your program, maybe a story that involves a young person you work with, kind of to set the stage, really highlight what your program is about and its impact and some of its success. If you want to go first.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yutaka Tamura. I am the executive director of a nonprofit organization called NXU, which is short for Nexus. And first and foremost, my energy shot up when I saw many hands go up with a large crowd of educators. So that's awesome. Love that many of you are here. Our organization briefly has created a curriculum that has placed purpose development at the nexus of social emotional learning and career exploration. For the first 3 years, all we did was work with students in a bunch of different regions in the country to iterate on our curriculum, codify it, and refine it. I myself led programming with students. As an example, I led a 5-session mini purpose development experience at a comprehensive public high school right out of Seattle. I walk into the classroom on the first morning as I overhear an advisor say, you gotta buckle down to a student in your math class because you're about to fail out of your math class. Fast forward 10, 15 minutes later, I'm leading my first lesson in which I start to engage students around what they wanna do as a precursor to why they want to do what they want to do, i.e. their sense of purpose. In response to the what question, the student who's failing out of the math class said, you know, I'm interested in becoming an electrician or a football coach. I was sufficiently struck by that response that I paused and said to the student, are you fully aware that to become an electrician or a football coach, especially in this increasingly data-driven world, you gotta have a strong grasp of math. The issue is that the math teacher who's very engaged in the student's success in the math class did not create space, which only took me a few minutes, to ask the student what his career interests are and about his career identity. And so the math teacher was very poorly positioned to engage the student in the math class through the lens of this particular student's unique career identity. On the flip side, I'm almost done, at a school in Chicago, in just 5 days of content, at the end of the 5 days, the teacher said to a student, you know, I've gotten to know you more holistically in 5 days, including through the lens of your career interest and identity, than I have in 3 years of teaching you. The takeaway being, you gotta create space to get to know young people, and it doesn't take a lot of time, but if you do, it can have, of course, positive impact on their long-term trajectory, but immediate impact on their academic engagement.
Corey?
I'd like to tell you a story about a young lady named Lila. Lila was what I would call a student in the massive middle. So we have students that we would code as high flyers. We have others that maybe need additional help on the other end of that bell curve. But we have a lot of students that live in a massive middle that are amazing kids. They have their passions and interests. They may have 1, maybe 2 extracurricular activities, but otherwise don't necessarily differentiate themselves. And I would put Lila in that category. And she came to be a part of the original CAPS program, Center for Advanced Professional Studies in Kansas City. And I'm here representing a broader network of those schools. But she came in, yes, thank you. And we visited with her, and she ended up signing up for a class called The Future of Food. And it was this idea of exploring the food industry. She took the class thinking, well, it's a culinary class. I'll learn some skills for when I get married and have a family, and I really don't know what else I will do with this, but it'll be fun. She got into this class, found out it was about food science. It was connecting to DuPont Food Sciences and learning and taking what we like to call the 10th thing off the to-do list of a business partner. 10th thing is never mission critical, but it never leaves your to-do list. There's something there. There's a reason it's there. High school students can work those projects. That's really the crux of the CAPS model. So she started working some of those client-connected projects in the food industry and caught fire. Ended up inventing her own ice cream sandwich that was gluten-free, all the way to formulating her own ice cream. She tried to go get Blue Bunny ice cream. The teacher said, no, unless you've got a legal agreement with Blue Bunny, you can't do that. So she created her own formulation of ice cream. She created her own cookies for the sandwich. She worked with a student in the marketing class to create packaging and a label. It was so convincing and so good that the principal of the school took some home for his wife, who is gluten-free. She tried it, immediately got in her car, drove to Whole Foods, and demanded to buy a box of Lila's ice cream sandwiches, to which the clerk said, I'm sorry, we're out of them, but by next week we'll have them. The next day I had to go in and tell Lila she better get into production.
Amazing.
It's a great story. I'm the CEO of Junior Achievement of Greater Boston. My career story is a perfect example of how not to plan your career. So I'm an immigrant from Dominican Republic, moved to the US, was lucky enough to go to a very prestigious liberal arts college in Vermont. I had no idea what I wanted to do with life, so I majored in French and Italian. I love languages. Have not made $1 in my career from my major. I then joined the Peace Corps, thinking that I was going to do an international career. I had a great experience in South Africa. Have not worked internationally since. Got into the investments industry, worked in hedge funds and private equity. So I went from Peace Corps to hedge funds. And now I'm the CEO of a nonprofit. And I was 35 when I realized what I wanted to be when I grew up. By contrast, as a young woman to a story by the name of Gabby, also from Dominican Republic, also from Lawrence, Massachusetts, who interacted with Junior Achievement in high school. She did our entrepreneurship program. She was the CEO of her company in high school. So her confidence was already building up. I can be a CEO. She went off to college. Her junior year, we helped her get a paid internship with Accenture in Boston. She liked it, but she wasn't sold on the idea of becoming a consultant. The next summer, she did an internship with AIG, the insurance company in Atlanta. Loved it, and they loved her. And before she graduated college, she had a full-time job offer from AIG, making twice as much as the average family makes in Lawrence, Massachusetts. So I'm glad that she found an easier, more direct pathway to a career than I did, because mine was like this.
Gotcha. Letta?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Letta Neely. I'm the Executive Director of Apprentice Learning, and we provide real-world experiences, real-world work opportunities to middle-grade youth, and we do that in direct partnership with employers and schools and families and communities to ignite purpose and nurture dreams. So we leverage career exploration. I am so nervous because this is such an important topic to me. I'm connected to it in so many various ways. Most of the people that I work with look like me, a younger version of me, and so it's very close to my heart. And so the story that I'll tell is about someone else in the middle, right? Young man named Franciel. He started off as an 8th grader because we work, like I said, we do 6 weeks of an apprenticeship program with 8th graders primarily, and we have a whole middle school scope. But they do 6 weeks, once a week for 2 hours out in the world. And Franciel, as an 8th grader, cussed out everybody in the school. Could not walk through the door without curse words just spewing from his mind, right, and from his mouth. And he began to have an identity that was formulated by, people thought he was something that he was not, right? And I don't believe that any young person walks in a building in the morning or wakes up in the morning and thinks about how they're going to mess up the world or mess up someone else's day. But that's how it was every day for him. And so he became a part of our apprenticeship program, which every 8th grader in our partner schools is, and he went to HubSpot. And he went there once a week for 6 weeks for 2 hours, and he became the person that took off his avatar, his middle school avatar, one of the faces that he was trying to be, and trying to find out all these different parts of himself, and he became the leader, right? And so he would walk in and he would be in the boardroom and he'd have international meetings with the folks that they were showing him how to do. He went with 5 other people and he was like, come on, y'all, let's get on this bus, let's go. He is now a senior in high school, and he has decided that he wants to go to BFIT. He has decided some things about his life. I can tell you that he no longer cusses everyone out. The last time he cussed someone out was me, and it was because I didn't get him a certificate in a timely fashion according to him, right? Because he had finished a program. He calls people back regularly. He has 3 jobs as a senior, and he likes them all, which arguably might be too many, right? But the fact that he opts into them and asks for them and searches for them, and he has a passion for life. And he has a relationship with people in the building now. And most importantly, he walks taller. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. There you go. I love it. So it's really great to hear these anecdotes, really good to hear the reason behind kind of why we do this work. It's really critical to this conversation. And kind of leading off of what Letta was just chatting about, thinking about workplace identities, what does that mean? I think all of us, even kind of well into our careers, some a little bit later into our careers, still have not 100% formed what our workplace identity is. So how are we having young people be able to do that? If we're asking them, who are you going to be in the workforce? We don't even know that. And we're asking middle and high schoolers to think about that. And how do you prepare students to really be future ready? So could you kind of all share a little bit about what those phrases mean to you in terms of workforce identities for young people, and then being able to really build out future ready learners?
So we at NXU think there are 5 components to preparing young people to be future ready. I've already touched on the first, but we got to help young people to really anchor around their sense of purpose, which can serve as an internal North Star as they navigate the multitude of decisions and choices they got to make in their career pathway. So purpose. But how do you cultivate a young person's sense of purpose? Well, we do that by anchoring them around who they are and their identity. Practically, we got to help them understand their strengths. We got to help them understand what uniquely brings them a sense of joy. And third, we got to help them understand the issue or need in the world that most activates them, because at the nexus of those 3 things is their sense of purpose. So purpose and identity. We also need to support them to cultivate social emotional learning practices and skills so they can actualize their sense of purpose. And fourth, they need social capital. We need to support them to build social capital and learn how to do that. And last but not least, as my panelists have talked deeply about, of course, we've got to expose them to a range of career pathways that are out there. And equally important, we've got to teach them practical steps that they can take to learn about the range of career interests, because most students will have an evolving sense of the career pathways they want to pursue, and we want to give them a protocol and a process to learn about the different pathways that they become interested in as they navigate their life journeys. So those are the 5 components. They happen to be the 5 components that we've anchored our curriculum around.
Oh, interesting.
That's so well said. You took at least 3 things I was going to say.
You can build off of them. You can build off
Absolutely.
of them.
There we go.
No, I love it. Another way to think about it, and I agree with everything you said, there's a journey that, and I think it's humans, it's not just young people, but as we think about young people, confidence is a real barrier at times. And there's this journey that happens where a student starts to have opportunities to not get outside of their comfort zone, but expand and kind of push the edges of their comfort zone, right? If you get outside of your comfort zone, you enter into a land of very distressful, right? And it's not terribly helpful to get someone in a place of distress. A former colleague of ours, Greg Brown, used to say, we want students to feel stress, not distress. So push that edge. But to do that, that involves both a self-discovery process, which is in many ways internal. What are the things, as you mentioned, we talk about this idea of purpose compass, which is very much what you said, right? What do I like? What am I good at? What's some big, hairy, audacious challenge in the world that I want to put my energy towards to make it a better place? So you start internally thinking about that, but the only way to truly validate that or to make meaningful decisions and to start building confidence is to then expand out and start that exploration process. So you see things, and we use a term in our model with CAPS and CAPS Network, it's try it out, rule it out. We celebrate finding things you don't like as much as we do the things that you do like, and you start winnowing down that funnel of opportunities that are present for you. It makes it much less, there's much less anxiety when you're making decisions. But when you start doing that and you kind of go out and explore, you come back in and say, what does that tell me about myself? You go back out and explore again. You refine over time. You're building confidence. And you're building confidence through this deployment of durable skills. And what happens is, once you have confidence, it leads to self-advocacy. Once you can be a self-advocate and you have a sense of what your North Star is, now, honestly, our job's kind of done. Other than providing additional resources, encouraging, cheerleading, making connections, that young person is going to run through a brick wall around the thing, or go around it or over it or under it, whatever you have to do to get past that wall. They're going to do it because they have that reason they're after it, and they have that confidence built up.
I now just have a picture of you with pom-poms just on the sideline.
Well, our crew that's here knows I'm the chief cheerleader. I try to rev everybody up. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and the only thing that I'll add is it's difficult as a young person to know what your workforce identity is if you don't know what you want to be when you grow up. So we do a lot of exposing middle school students, high school students to all kinds of different opportunities. Everything that we do is experiential, so it forces them to think on their feet, to take that risk, to get pushed, to get stressed, not distressed, right? And eventually, when they find something they like, then we can try to help them find a way into that career pathway. But I will definitely double down on the self-efficacy, that confidence that comes with young people being the CEO of a company or doing something that they thought they would never do, would follow them throughout the whole career. They now believe in themselves. They believe they can do what they thought they couldn't do before. So I just echo both of your comments.
And I agree with everything that you all have said. And I want to add that it is, for the middle grade youth, it is absolutely necessary that not only that they learn how to dream, right, or that they believe that, that things are possible, but that it's critical that they believe that they are possible. Right? It would be myopic of me to say that young students, that 8th graders, right, in this context of these United States actually believe that they can do a thing. So there's some work that that it's even open to them, right? There are these pathways that they've been shown that are not career readiness, right? They are often cell readiness, right? Just being clear, I guess, right? And so like we are thinking about new arrangements for new atmospheres. And for that, it means for us, working with 8th graders starts with learning how to be courage ready, learning how to be work ready and community ready. And then exploring all of these careers once you figure out what is your learning style, who are you, what's your signature strength, what are your passions, what are your dreams. You can be a thing without having seen it. It is true, right? But it's so much easier once you've seen it to be it, right? How do you know you can be a sound tech if you've never even heard of one, right?
And I think, Letta, you and I have had conversations around kind of being able to develop students in a way that they feel comfortable kind of bringing their whole self to these work-based learning experiences. I think a lot of times young people have to feel like they have to kind of pick and choose what pieces of themselves they can share or that they can express in terms of their clothing, how they talk, all of those things. So thinking about how do you really approach that with the young people that you work with before they go into an experience?
So we approach it with this idea that we are creating a slew of choices, right? So it matters how you shake a hand in some environments, right? But it doesn't mean that how you dap someone else up in your personal environment is wrong. You are learning how to be multilingual, right? It matters all of your language capacity. It matters that you walk in the room knowing that you are golden and amazing because you have all of this language capacity that someone else might have had to go to school for, right? But sometimes young people are made to feel less than because they are English language learners. And sometimes we as adults or as worksite partners even don't even recognize that they actually know like 4 or 5 languages and we know 1. You know what I mean? So having them step into their purpose and their being and recognize that their lived and learned experience is absolutely necessary in the workforce. And then we do things on the other side of that, like with the workforce, to make sure to operationalizing equity.
And so kind of we're thinking these big dreams of how we kind of want students to be able to be future ready, kind of build out their workforce identities. Corey, could you share a little bit about some of kind of the secret sauce of the CAPS network and kind of how do you practically do that? How are you able to really help support kids in being able to build out these different pieces of themselves?
Yeah, well, I think it starts with local empowerment. So you've heard some cheering from the middle section here. We've got folks that are here from CAPS from Texas, Utah, Wisconsin. I'm looking across the room here. Massachusetts, Missouri, Iowa. They all know their local context. They know the schools they're in. They know the communities they're in. It would have been a real mistake in retrospect if we had tried to build a school model that was highly top-down and rigid, that didn't recognize the important factors that play out in those local communities and in those schools. The other thing that happens is if you think about the hierarchy of humans in the system and where the power lies, our goal is that is flipped upside down. So our mantra is where students lead. We want students to be taking charge of their learning. We want them to be the ones that are managing projects with industry partners. Doesn't mean they don't have support, but it means that, again, they're pushing the edge of their comfort zone. They're learning through that the durable skills that are so important. But that also means that we have to live up to that. That as a school network, and we're now a national nonprofit headquartered in Kansas City, it means that we intentionally try to keep our team lean, and we're leveraging these amazing humans that are out in the world, working in their own communities and building up their own brands locally. They know their students better than we ever will. We can cheerlead them, we can advocate for them, but we have to lean into that. And then once we do that, some of the key pieces of our framework, I think, are really the special sauce, which is allowing students to get into teams and work client-connected projects, taking that 10th thing off the to-do list, which almost every professional has a 10th thing. So we always hear, are we going to run out of business partners? I don't know. Are people going to stop having a 10th thing on their to-do list? I don't think so, right? So it's an easy way to integrate a model that's profession-based without feeling the strain of trying to get every single student out into an internship, which can be really, really difficult work. It's not that we don't believe in internships. We have that as well, but let's figure out ways to make this happen. And then something that's been mentioned here, which is worthy of bringing back up, is durable skills, right? Having a framework for that, and the great work of America Succeeds in helping to get the word out in CompTIA. Look at the durable skills wheel, look at the framework and the assessments that are coming out, and use those as toolkits as educators to make positive things happen.
And I think those are all free online as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. And so, Rad, I'd love it if you could elaborate a little bit on the transition that Junior Achievements of Greater Boston has taken from kind of a K-12 focus to really moving it to kind of middle school to career, and kind of how that better aligns with the goal of kind of building out these future-ready students.
Yeah, thank you. So we're a global nonprofit operating in 100 countries all over the U.S. And we've done some great things over 100 years, but we've had to evolve as things change. And for our market in Boston, being K-12 just wasn't realistic. We don't have the resources to serve such a big range of student grades and do it well. So in 2019, we did a whole research process to understand, where are students most ready for our work. And we just found out that middle school is such a critical age. Students are ready to decide what they want to be when they grow up. They're starting to want to buy that iPhone and the expensive sneakers, so financial literacy is very important. And it's also an underserved age group, in my opinion. I think a lot of college and work readiness programming starts in high school or older, and it's too late at that time. You have to help middle school students figure out, what do I like, what can I do in a career, and how can I make a living in that early on, so they can then decide, do I go to technical school, do I go to traditional school, and what do I do extracurricular-wise? And so we've actually we're discontinued K-5, and we're doing middle school exploration through a program called J-Inspire, where 8th graders go, they take curriculum to learn about their interests, their aptitudes, their potential career pathways, and then they come into a big convention center and they interact with 50+ employers of different industries in fun, engaging ways, so that hopefully a light bulb will go off in their head saying, hey, I really like that robotics company or that healthcare company or whatever it may be, the construction company. And then we're following them through high school through exploration opportunities like the entrepreneurship program that I mentioned earlier. And then we're now getting into the experience part where we're placing these young people in their first internship or career opportunity that's leading to full-time jobs. So it was about being more intentional. And we're more intentional around age group, but we're also only working now in Boston, Chelsea, Lawrence, Lowell, which are immigrant communities, mostly young people of color, because our resources are limited, and we have to, in my opinion, focus on equity. How do we close equity gaps that can create a more balanced opportunity base for everyone? And so that's been a big shift for us. It's been very well welcomed. We're just starting, about 3 years in, so a lot of work to do, but we're really excited about that transition.
Amazing, thank you. And Yutaka, from a curriculum perspective, can you share some models that kind of, and how can programs really foster a clearer sense of workforce identity, and kind of how have you embedded that into your model?
So as brief context, our model is somewhat different than my fellow panelists. We've codified a middle and a high school curriculum because it is important to engage young people at the middle school grades around their career identities and career exploration. And we partner with schools across 20+ states to implement our curriculum. So context 1, 2, as a reminder, our curriculum is purpose, identity, social emotional learning, or durable skills, social capital development, and career exploration. So how does that manifest itself at a practical learning experience level? We've got at least a couple school principals that I got a chance to meet with, so I'm channeling the two of you in particular. Take one learning experience, which we call the life timeline. In this activity, kids are asked to reflect on and identify the most formative experiences they've had in their lives. As they do that, they cultivate the social emotional learning or durable skill of self-awareness. As they share their life timelines and the most profound experiences they've had in their lives, they cultivate the social emotional learning skill and durable skill of active listening and empathy. And often they uncover latent social capital. I had no idea. You're in my class and you've got XYZ. To understand your identity, you've got to understand the formative experiences you've had. To understand your sense of purpose, you've got to understand the formative experiences you've had. And so often for young people, the formative experiences they've had profoundly impact the career choices and decisions they make. For example, this is somewhat of an intense thing to share with all of you, but when I was 18, in the middle of my 12th grade year, my father passed away. What is even more intense is that only after his passing did I find out that he had been a CIA agent. On a lighthearted note, that means that he was very good at his job because he never told me what he did. But more profoundly, that meant that he never talked about his work, he never talked about his sense of purpose, and he certainly didn't talk about his work identity. What does that mean? It is not surprising that I've spent a better part of 7 years launching, establishing, and leading an organization that, if you distill down what we're trying to do, trying to create safe, inclusive, supportive spaces for young people to consider who they are, what their sense of purpose is, and what their career identities are.
Wow. Thank you for that. So I know we chatted a lot about kind of curriculum models, thinking about nonprofits that are providing these services, but can we kind of flip the switch a little bit and think about some practical examples that employers could or should be doing to really create environments where young people can kind of build on these skill sets with the support of nonprofit organizations. So Letta, if you could take that.
Yes. So we work with the worksite partner to develop engaging opportunities for young people where they feel, because they are doing real world work. So it's everything from some young people have an apprenticeship at a pizza shop and they're actually learning how to make pizza. We had some apprentices that actually worked with ASA and they were looking at some of the curriculum, some of the apps that they have. And so it is deliberately building relationships, not with just young people, but with our worksite partners. I love this idea of the 10th thing on the list. For 8th graders, I might say 20th. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
But that every young person, I think of our young people, they're already mathematicians, astronauts, sound designers, tech, all kinds of amazing things. And being an intimate witness on their journey as a worksite partner means that you are helping them to develop their work readiness skills, right? So you are helping them increase their social capital by talking about things that you're all interested in, and investing in that, and then extrapolating that for the work. So it is oftentimes meeting with the worksite partner over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, once, a couple of hours to develop what is that going to look like if it's not something as easily seen as a pizza shop, right? So if you're working at HubSpot, you are probably, like Franciel, got to figure out how he's supposed to set up the computers, how he's supposed to introduce and meet these folks that are from other countries. What do you say first? How do you face yourself in the Zoom? Like all of those things. How do you show up on time? So all of those formidable skills.
Yeah. And I think it's really, really important for employers to understand and at least acknowledge from an equity standpoint that there are really large systems in place that have made it so that some young people feel comfortable going into a workspace and other folks do not. So for black and brown young people, that experience going into a financial institution, for example, is going to be really different than someone who kind of grew up upper middle class. Something
right,
like
and so like the idea is that when you are 16, 17, 18 at your internship, right, if you should get one, right, then that elevator that you're getting into that's so gilded and beautiful is not a surprise at that point, right? It is just par for the course. And so therefore you can go and invest in your internship as opposed to being wowed by everything automatically at that point.
Yeah. And I think we ask a lot of employers that are engaging in this work, and I'm so glad that they do, but can we, Rad or Corey, do you want to share kind of one anecdote, statistic, or kind of reason that you've seen to be most effective in really driving engagement, getting buy-in from employers to really engage in this work? Obviously, it's not on everyone's to-do list, but I think everyone sees the importance of being able to provide these experiences. So what's kind of one phrase that really gets everyone hooked?
I mean, our biggest message to employers is that there's an untapped resource in the young people who we serve, who many of us serve, who are able to bring value to your business. So it's a business decision. It's not, you're not doing this to help the poor kids through Junior Achievement or through any other organization.
Yep.
Is that these young people speak multiple languages. They've been through situations that, just recruiting from, the IVs is not gonna get you the level of representation in your business as we continue to evolve as an organization, as a country, in a world, to really bring that diversity of thought. So it's a resource, and we need to figure out a way to tap into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, and that's just it, it's return on investment.
Yep.
And it's okay to talk about return on investment. Yeah. It's okay to think about a win-win with industry partners. We all know that there are the feel-good moments and the reasons why that can be part of the equation as well. But in order for it to be a sustaining partnership, there needs to be a feeling of some return on investment. And I'm here to say, and I think we all are here to say, that these young people absolutely can deliver return on investment. They also continually shock the adult world with what they're capable of.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, you would think by this point, I've been at CAPS now, almost 10 years, which is hard to even believe. But coming from industry into education, I was blown away, and then I continually am blown away myself. And So I think the trick here is we have got to find ways to ensure that the voice of the industry partner who has had the positive experience, who has received the return on investment, is talking to their peers in industry.
Yep.
And I do want to put a little bit of a precursor shout out to a project we're working on in conjunction with ASA, which is essentially going to be an industry partner platform to share how you engage and why you engage with high school students, so that we can help other industry partners activate in your communities, right? We want it to be easy for you as educators to be able to reach out to your local industry partners and not have to bear the burden of explaining how this works. Like, don't take it from me. Hear from these other executives or local professionals that have done this work and what they have to say.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah.
And wrapping up, I know there are a lot of educators in the room, so I'd love to kind of close with Yutaka. I know one of the major successes of your curriculum is that you've really been able to be flexible and integrate it into kind of pre-existing schedules, classes, to make sure that kind of teachers are not overburdened with another to-do list. But given kind of the intense overlap with social emotional learning, with building out these durable skills, how do you really ensure that educators are inclusive of students, ensuring safe environments for individuals whose identities they might not necessarily represent?
Given time, I'll be quick
I know,
on
yeah.
this.
I know.
We think that there are 3 key components to ensuring that teachers create inclusive environments to deliver multifaceted content and experiences like the ones that we've been talking about. 1, the curriculum itself has to be inclusive. What does that mean? From our perspective, from the get-go, all we focused on was serving kids directly, particularly students of color and students from historically marginalized communities, and that's gotten infused into the curriculum from the framing, the language, the questions, and the videos. That's 1. 2, as we train and prepare educators to engage students, we gotta do 2 things. 1, we gotta allow them to engage in some of the content, including an example like the life timeline, because they start to see how it's important for them as participants to have safe, inclusive spaces. And then we gotta talk very explicitly with them about the practical things they need to do to foster an inclusive classroom environment. So that's a 2nd. And then 3rd, in our model where we partner with schools, we got to provide ongoing support to the schools. Implementation questions come up, and we got to respond to those questions, including questions around how do we continue to foster an inclusive environment? And last but not least, there's got to be data. Teachers got to be able to see if they're delivering content and experiences like this, is it impacting their young people in an equitable manner? And so we provide a data dashboard using an assessment system that we built out.
Amazing. And last question, I know we're coming up on time. What is one thing that you would recommend audience members do to kind of continue supporting work-based learning in relation to workforce identities, future-ready learners? Go. One of you. 2 of you. Rapid fire.
You're cracking me up.
I mean, it's just, again, believe in our young people. We're going to be working for these young people not too long from now. So if we don't get them ready, we'll all be in trouble, right? Because these are our future leaders. I know it's kind of cliche, but if we don't invest in them now and put them to practice so to make sure they find their passions, then the world's not going to be as great as it can be in the future.
And I would add, like, believe in what is possible for young people. At the same time, like, that we're all working on building out their essential skills, then we also have to work on our unconscious and our conscious biases, right? So that we're telling them the world is possible, then our job is to make the world possible.
I'd say take a step. We get intimidated sometimes by, we come to a conference and we hear panelists talk about various models, and it sounds like, wow, there's some really amazing things going on there, and you start getting overwhelmed by how in the world would I do this in my classroom or do this in my school? And the dirty little secret about it all is all of these models started with a step. So what is that step for you? It could be reaching out to one person that's a parent in your community or in your school who has a job, who has a 10th thing, and you have one project that you have students working on that's authentic and real, and the students know it's not fake, it's not a simulation. That could be your first step. There could be something even smaller than that, or it could be bringing in a professional into the classroom to at least start a conversation. But take the first step. And I also want to say this, and I say this a lot, and I'll probably continue to say it until I'm blue in the face, until I'm no longer on this earth, but it doesn't matter who you work with. I mean, I represent a brand. We all are, a lot of us here in the room are with CAPS, but whether you decide you want to work with a model and you work with CAPS, or you decide to work with NAF and their academies, you work with one of us on the panel, you work with GPS education partners, One Stone's in the room. I mean, there are so many amazing partners that are doing awesome work that's purpose-driven and in many ways career-connected and self-discovery around finding purpose. It shouldn't matter, right? We should be working towards purpose, not towards brand building.
Right.
And so find what works for you, and then start making those steps forward.
I would say that I'm hoping all of us can collectively work towards a vision and world in which we don't think of career-connected learning for kids as something that is of benefit for them in the future, but that it has immediate impact on the students' day-to-day experience, including their academic engagement. And to build off of what Corey said, the one practical thing I encourage you to do, whether you're a parent, an older sibling, an educator, is the next time you see a young person, ask them not just what they might be interested in doing once they're done with their academic journey, but why they're interested in doing what they're interested in doing.
All right, and that is it for us. Thank you so much. We'll be here to answer any questions.